Thanks, Sophia. Yeah, I'm a finance guy. Don't hold that against me. I'm a change guy, I'm a tech guy, a risk guy, and an ops guy. And my career has been changing banks. So that's what I do, the hard work of going into a bank that doesn't want to change and helping them change. So Sophia noted that I used her software like almost 10, 15 years ago, and for the first time, and then I used it again at another place, and then I used it again at another place. So that's why I'm a customer, I'm not a sales guy. I'm a person just like you who has all these constraints and all the issues to deal with that Hillel talked about, just the change management execution of what's going on. So let's get into it. We have 35 minutes. Now, I think there's 5 vectors of change colliding. Okay, 5 vectors of change: people, process, technology, and data, and leadership. And so it was really impressive to see what Hillel said about how leaders have to get on board. You have to get alignment first. I think this is a fundamental thing that makes transparency important. And so while Hillel was talking about the strategy, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals of executing change across functional teams that don't get it. Okay? Because if you actually can see your processes and see what's going on and put it in the context of the customer and the employee experience, you can make that change happen, because you can create a dialogue now about what's broken, what needs to be fixed, what has to change. Before, it's like one department versus another, who's going to win and whose fault is it and why can't you change that? I hated that dialogue. I hated that dialogue in every change program I was on. It's the tech boys, they're not doing what they need to do. It's the ops boys, they're not doing what they're to do. It's the marketing people, they're not doing what they need to do. It's the front office people. I hate it. If you think about alignment of an organization on a digital transformation, you have to simultaneously manage these 5 vectors of change. And you have to manage it with transparency. And so where I was last at Wyth, which is a financial services digital bank, we launched a bank in under a year, digital bank, which is pretty quick. We got the management team to be an agile management team. Imagine a bank that actually has a management team meeting every day on an agile scrum basis. Okay, imagine that. Okay? And then we just took issues down, and we had transparency in everything we did. And so that's the way you manage this type of 5 vectors of change simultaneously to execute complex, messy change. Okay? The other thing that Hillel said was put the customers at the center. Well, of course you put the customers at the center, but you also put the employees at the center. You enable employees. So your attention on this slide should be the client-facing part and the employee-enabling part. Because if your employees can't work or can't fulfill or can't be happy in their job, it's going to reflect directly on the client. So I have two ways of talking about an issue. It's either a client issue or an employee issue. I don't make it a tech issue. I don't make it a finance issue. I don't make it an ops issue. I make it a client issue or an employee issue. We're hurting our employees. They can't do their job. Let's figure out why they can't do their job. And then all those other dimensions on this slide, it's a busy slide, you can look at later. But client and employee, put them together, talk about them together, talk about them in the face of what you're trying to do in front of the client. So the customer goes at the center, okay? But you also have to actually, what Hillel said, have a strategy, a vision, planning, purpose, all that. You design it, and I hate it when people just automate the paper. Because now with new technology, you don't have to just automate the paper. You can actually redesign the process with what is capable and available from technology. So if someone starts just to do process documentation for the sake of doing process documentation, they want to automate the paper, let's stop that. Okay? Let's actually think about what could be possible with digitization and how you would really redesign the process from a multi-channel, omni-channel, multi-device perspective, serving the client or enabling the employee. So think about it as a multifaceted problem to redesign it with the technology you currently have or could have, rather than just automate the paper. Okay? So Wyth, it's a small bank, 350 people. We launched a mortgage, we launched a deposit account in under a year. Okay, that's something. Okay, we had a totally remote workforce. We don't have a branch network, so it had to be truly digital. You can never send somebody to a branch to resolve something, so you needed it to work virtually. But we needed to do it at speed. We had a mandate to get it done. We wanted to bring on new products. We brought on a mortgage and a deposit account. When I was doing the manual analysis, it took too long. So StereoLOGIC, please come in and record the processes, get it done, show me what we can fix, show me where the issues are, create transparency, make sure I can actually have a dialogue across my functional teams to fix the right problem, and the problem that gives me an ROI. Like if you fix Form 32B and it doesn't affect the customer or the employee, then don't fix Form 32B. Right? Fix the things that matter in front of the employee and that matter in front of the customer. And how you do that, you need to have transparency. So mind your processes, understand what you have, understand where it's broken, and redesign. Okay? So it didn't take long. So if you think about how long it takes to actually put StereoLOGIC into your environment, in about 2 weeks we had it. That's pretty quick. And that's actually getting through privacy and cybersecurity and server configuration and all that. Now we're a smaller place, I agree. So, I can basically push people around. I need it done in a week. I need that done in a week. Let's get this done, okay? So I realize that other organizations are bigger and more complicated, but I still think you could put it on a server and get it up in a week in a large organization. So I think you have to think about how quickly that gives you transparency into what your organization is doing. And you can start recording right away. It doesn't require a lot of interconnections. So I think thinking about making processes transparent so you can have the right dialogue, so you can have the right conversation, so you can focus on the right things. You don't waste your time doing 6 months of process analysis. You just record and look. Record and have a conversation. Okay? So this is a little bit of an eye test, but you get information like employee activities. You get information like time on task. You get information like applications used. You get information like detailed process maps. You get information like step-by-step process documentation, and you get summary automation opportunities. So think about that in a week or 2, or maybe for a larger organization, 3. Because you can click, record, get output. Okay? So this is not Neal's old classic, let's do a process chart and talk about it in a workshop. This is actually on screen what you did, captured, so you can have a good conversation. Okay? So in 2 months, we actually improved a lot. We reduced the process analysis time from what was traditionally 12 weeks to 4. We looked at numerous opportunities for automation, but we could select the ones that really impacted the client and the employee experience. I could see through all the things that were not valuable and fix the pain points. I use an expression called pain, grief, and suffering. So I would look for pain, grief, and suffering, and I'd have my staff tell me where the pain, grief, and suffering is. One time I used StereoLOGIC at another client, not Wyth, but I basically had 4 people recorded. And then I put the 4 people in a room and I showed what they had recorded. And I let them have a conversation about what they were doing. And let's just call them Betty, Bob, Wilma, and Frida. And they basically debated for 4 hours what was the best way to do the process, because everyone did it differently. And without changing a whip of technology, they redesigned the processes between themselves for what everyone did best, and they saved 33%. And I didn't touch technology. I just had them have a conversation about what they did with their processes. Then we worked on technology things. But immediately, after a 4-hour recording and a 4-hour discussion, we had a 33% improvement. So then the next one was arguably a failed implementation of a large-scale retail bank. I didn't do that. I came in after. And the conversation was, the tech people have screwed this up. The front office people have screwed this up. The CSRs are not doing their job. And it was like he said, she said debate. So what we did was we recorded what they were doing, and then we had a really good conversation about where the issues were, what's going on. And so for each release, we recorded what people were doing. Then we talked about the errors and delays, And we talked about root causes, and we talked about a collaboration across finance and front office and technology to make it better. So we saved a multi-million-dollar project with a little tool like StereoLOGIC because we actually executed properly. We tested what was going on. The results were pretty impressive. 15 million in annual savings and 22% improvement in client experience because we could actually reduce the errors and delays to zero because we could see them, we could have conversations. Generated standard operating procedures so we could train the front office staff and created opportunities for collaboration across all the departments. We stopped the indeterminable debate between the departments about whose fault it was.